Hello guys, and welcome to a new Star Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 2 of a best of 3 between AmberT and Prestor John in round 1 of the finals in season 3 of the Steel Division 2 League. Today they are playing on Slutsk, and both players have decided once again to play on the Allied side. So on our left, in the red team, we have AmberT using the 6th Airborne and the Vanguard deployment type. And on our right, in the blue team, we have Prestor John using the 3rd US Armoured and the Maverick deployment type. I have been seeing some of your comments about it being Allied versus Allied all the time. I do realise that. And it's also been a lot of Western Front divisions, which is a little disappointing in the grand scheme of things, but this is the rules of the SD League, and we do still get to see a lot of top tier play, so hopefully you guys are enjoying that at least. Now it is 1-0 to Prestor John at this point. AmberT is going to have to win this game or be knocked out. So yeah, really all to play for. AmberT is going to be using his 6th Airborne with the Vanguard. We have seen Karma do well with the 6th Airborne by basically getting control of the skies and using that to overwhelm his opponent. We're going to have to see if AmberT can do the same thing. Prestor John, however, he's going to be going for the 3rd US Armoured, previously bringing out the 2nd French Armoured. It's got a very similar playstyle in that it relies a lot on the M8s and then mechanised infantry in the form of the armoured rifles in this case, as opposed to voltages. I am very sort of interested in the Maverick deployment type though, because it does leave Prestor John quite vulnerable in the late game. If AmberT was, for example, to use a flatline deployment type, then Prestor John would be really in trouble in Phase C. He's kind of got away with it because AmberT is using a Vanguard deployment type. Maverick can be very good at exploiting a strong early game, but of course you do have the disadvantage in Phase A, so it's difficult to make that happen, but a strong start is also something to consider. Now, I've talked a lot about how, Vanguard can be strong because it has a lot of points in Phase A, but you've also got to consider that you do get 750 points from the start of the game, and what you do with those 750 points is very, very important. In the last game, we saw AmberT use the 15th Infantry and bring a lot of Churchills, whilst Prestor John brought a lot of M8s and fast infantry. And what that meant was at the start of the game, Prestor John had all the positioning he ever wanted, all the information he ever wanted, and then AmberT was kind of like left in the dark and had to deploy short and so on. So what you do with those 750 points at the start is vital, and we're going to have to take a deep dive into what they are bringing in. So let's start on the side of Prestor John. On the right hand side here, he's got the flamethrower pushing ahead with engineers arriving in. These are all M3A1s. They are all 50 cal half tracks, except from the artillery command at the back here, which is an M2 half track. There is also the M3A1 OP with the 105mm off map. Not a massive fan of the smaller caliber off map. I think 150 plus is generally the sweet spot. But M15 GCMC at the start. But he's going to expect aircraft apparently, which is, well, I guess smart against the 6th Airborne, and an M1 gun. That's also coming in a half track. 2 flamethrowers, M8s charging ahead with the 50 cal there, and on the bottom side, 50 cal, 2 flamethrowers, 2 M8s. On the side of AmberT, sniper in the open. We've got 2 units of infantry, Canadian paras, and an air landing. Snipers heading more to the centre, backed up by Vickers HMGs. Air landing there, 6-pounder, loads of infantry here. And they're all bunched up together. Looks like some glider crew air landing. 2 Tetrarchs. For the town, it's going to be air landing glider crew with 6-pounder. That's been unloaded so that it can shoot down the road, looking to get the shot onto the M8 right now. On the top side, it's going to be airborne engineers and air landing with a Tetrarch. And the Tetrarchs can match up quite nicely to M8s, so good to see them coming in, but not too convinced about the positioning. AB Vickers is going to be taking out the flamethrower that's unloaded early. Oh, one transport snipe going down to these M8s. Not going to be able to get another one just yet. The flamethrowers did get into heavy cover sooner than later, which has put Prestor John in quite a nice position. Going to do a little bit of damage here and there, but those flamethrowers are completely overwhelmed by numbers. On the bottom side, Air Landing and Canadian Paras trying to take on this 50 cal. That 50 cal is going to hold its position for quite a while. The AmberT is going to maybe want to start moving them and getting them into cover. That's exactly what he's doing. Tempest coming in for the bombing strike onto the M8. If he could open up this bottom side, that would be really nice. Those bombs didn't quite hit the mark. That's unlucky. If those hit more direct, the M8 probably would have gone down. Now this M8 is the recon M8. The other M8 that was holding the front line did die. And of course the flamethrowers went down. So a big salient opening up in the center. On the top side, looks like off-map came down a little bit. Yeah, off-map's still coming down. Tetrarch, though, is going to shoot down or shoot the half-track, take that out, now provide the base of machine gun support onto the engineers. Engineer's going to get pinned down by his own off-map. The off-map was probably unnecessary there. Looks like it was a little bit premature. Anyway, these engineers are going to be able to lob a grenade without revealing themselves. Like they won't be in line of sight, so they're just going to be able to do a lot of damage there without taking the damage back, which is good. Tempest once again coming in with the bombing strike onto the command M8. Now this should definitely get the kill. Yeah, it's already been hit once, so twice is going to do the job, and that's going to be a flag in favour of AmberT. Things are going quite well for AmberT right now, but reinforcements have arrived for Prestor John on the bottom side, going to be bringing in engineers with the M3A1 half tracks. These M3A1 half tracks do have 50 cals, can do a lot of damage. These air landing took a lot of damage moving up due to this 50 cal that was already there. M8 and M4A1, two M4A1s coming on to the bottom side. Flamethrower going to be moving in just to capture that flag and hold that for the time being. And you can see how Prestor John's using these flamethrowers once again, similar to the last game, to kind of feint a strong front line. Got the M8 here, probably going to get picked off by the 6-pounder. Now the trouble with doing it this time around for Prestor John is kind of giving the game away, because he already lost the flamethrowers initially, and this big push that came through from AmberT is still pretty big, and it's probably going to continue the same direction regardless. These engineers did get pushed off the hill. Looks like Prestor John's going to take control of that. M1 gun unloaded on this road is really nice. Can he get a couple of snipes? He can. One unit goes down. Tetrarch also going to be in line of sight of that M1 gun. So looks like that armor support will be disappearing soon. Now the Tetrarchs in the center is still alive. Looks like one of them did go down. And there's the transport there that went down, the transport there that went down. Was that the Tetrarch? Nope. That was a unit from Prestor John that apparently got killed. Tempest does manage to take out the AT gun. It's a little bit too far away from the CGMC, so that can't save the day. But he does see that that's now available. Now CGMCs, they can be very strong on their own, but you get limited availability, and that's going to leave units on the other side of the map vulnerable. A Typhoon does come in with that rocket strike to take out one of the M4A1s already. So that Typhoon's probably going to get like another 1 or 2 kills to really be worth it. But so far so good. Engineers again coming in to back up the bottom side. 12 to 12. Things are equal. Now, at this point, AmberT doesn't really want things to be equal. AmberT really needs to have a lead with the Vanguard deployment type so that he can be in a good offensive position that he can then hunker down in to prepare for the strong Phase B Maverick. Now Jumbo has been brought out, and this thing pretty much trumps any form of armor that the 6th Airborne can use. So AmberT is going to be very, very reliant on his Air Force to take care of that, and he's already starting to bomb it. Now this doesn't look like it does most damage, but every unit, like especially tanks, they have health. And by chipping at that health with a bomber like the Tempest, you can eventually just kill them with bombing strikes. And it also means that the AT rockets and so on are a lot more likely to get the kill. Now Prestor John's going to try and avoid that by getting his CGMC over to the Jumbo, because I think he realizes that AmberT is going to focus on that quite a bit and doesn't necessarily need it to protect his infantry, because the Tempests are going to get a lot less value by bombing his infantry than they are from hitting his Jumbo. So he's going to be meeting those two up together. Tetrarch is moving around though, so he's going to need something to counter that. Does have an M1 gun on the way. And these engineers, it's a very interesting composition from Prestor John, just relying like almost solely on engineers at the start. Does have some armoured rifles in there as well. Yeah, for his mainline infantry, it's just engineers in these M5A1 half-tracks. 6-pounder does take out the M4A1. Nicely covered here by AmberT. Good to see AmberT did invest in plenty of AT guns from the start of the game this time. It certainly worked out a lot better for him than it did in the last game when he just didn't buy any at all. This Tempest looking for a bombing strike. Maybe going to go for the Jumbo, but the CGMC is right next to it this time around. Not going to be able to stop the bombing strike, but will do plenty of damage, and the 50 cal is now firing away, so that Tempest will take damage and be out of action for a little while. More infantry on the way, more Tetrarchs on the way for AmberT. I am curious as to why AmberT didn't bring more Tetrarchs from the start. I think it is pretty meta at the moment with the 6th Airborne to use a lot of Tetrarchs from the start, just because they can overwhelm half-tracks and light vehicles that people would like to use to snipe, you know, things like M8s. So, well, and also they can do that themselves, they can snipe enemy units. So, yeah, bringing in a lot of them, especially considering how cheap they are, is generally perceived to be quite effective. And in this case, he's kind of waited till later into the game to bring in more of them, especially now that he is, I guess, struggling to break down the half-tracks as quickly. So these two half-tracks, for example, just wailing on the sniper there. That armoured rifle does take a bombing strike from the Tempest, but does fall back just in time. I think it managed to dodge some of that damage because it didn't take a direct hit. Still continued engagement on the top side. Glider rifles, air landing, Canadian Paras, all trying to do their best with the Lee Enfield. The M1 Garands are just straight up better. So they're not trading as well, but here comes the Tempest. That's going to go for the bombing strike onto the 50 cal. Doesn't kill it. Leaves it very low though. 203mm off map being brought in for AmberT. Gonna have to see where that goes. 105mm off maps being brought in on the top side again. I think because we're in a special viewer, we're not going to be able to see where they actually place the off map before it lands. They're just going to have to keep an eye out for that. Engineers next to the glider crew here. They're too close, I think, to use the HE shell or the HE grenade or TNT. So that's just a straight up engagement with the 50 cal support. They should win eventually, the engineers, but yeah, they're taking more damage than they probably need to. 6-pounder in the center here. Ooh, almost taking out that M4A1, but the HE shot that landed from the Jumbo and the M4A1 initially actually pushed the 6-pounder off its position, and therefore it died. That can happen sometimes with HE shells from tanks. They do leave a little bit of flames underneath them. Lovely mosquito strike though, burns up 2 engineer units. He is starting to have local superiority on the top side. If AmberT can keep using the Tetrarchs into support to take out the half-tracks and allow the Canadian Paras to keep moving up, he should be in a good position there to take back the high ground. And technically he's already taken back the flag that he would be otherwise taking. I think the best thing for AmberT to do right now is sort of secure this center hill, because if he can do that, then he can take 2 defensive objectives from Prestor John in the center. But there's 2 Jumbos on the field now. Typhoon's coming in for the rocket strike, and that's going to get one. CGMC is running back. Looks like that got hit previously by the off map of the 203mm, so gave room for the Typhoon to come in, and nice use by AmberT so far of these aircraft. It is starting to pay off quite a bit. Those Typhoon ATs picking up enough kills to do a lot of damage. Now, engineers here going to absolutely demolish those glider crew running forwards. So it looks like the bottom side is going to maintain control, or Prestor John's going to maintain control on the bottom side. Tempest's going to go for more bombing strike on the top, going to take out one of those armoured rifles, also pin down the 2 units of infantry that were making a stand, but the M4A1's picking off the Tet trucks there, so that's not good news for AmberT. Typhoon again, lovely kill onto the M4A1. Another CGMC has come in, but that's not going to stop any strikes anytime soon. There's no significant amount of AA, so AmberT's Air Force is still going at it. A second CGMC coming in. Now Prestor John's going to have to keep both of these in the same place if he wants them to be effective, especially at shooting down things that are as fast as Tempests and Typhoons. So it'd be interesting to see where he puts them. His jumbos haven't really done much. I mean, he had a jumbo back here, Prestor John, but it just kind of sat there, maybe fired a few HE shells on the top, but other than that, it hasn't been too effective. I really don't think jumbos work well in positions where you need to kill like a lot of light tanks. The thing that jumbos are great for is distracting heavy targets. So things like Tigers and Panthers, if it was on the side of AmberT, maybe things like Challengers, they basically are there to be shot at and to sponge shots. And if you show your side to it, they can then fire back and do just lots of damage. So yeah, they're kind of just an annoyance. They're supposed to be there as like a presence, I guess, and used on the bottom side would be fantastic because it could just tank the 6-pounder, push across the open. Anything that AmberT brought in, like these Cromwell 5s, would just be bouncing off it for days. It would be really, really difficult for AmberT to deal with. But in a town, it's not really doing anything. They don't do that much or any more damage than a normal M4 to infantry, and they don't deal with light armor or medium armor any faster. That's again the same deal as an M4, so why pay as much for a jumbo when you can do the same with a standard M4 like the M4 here, or this one, like the M4A1s that are lovely and cheap, 60 points, and the M4A3 105. That's a bit overpriced for what it is, but we'll let that be. The jumbo 110 points, you kind of get the point. Oh, lovely kill there actually. Tet trucks snipe the MGMC or the CGMC. Really, really important kill. Again, AmberT needs to make sure he's relying a lot on his aircraft to get the better of Prestor John, and the more AA he can kill, the easier that's going to be. Lovely bombing strike there onto the M3A1. Shame he didn't get the kill. Would have been good for him to push onto this bottom side. Again, another Tempest coming in. Just going for these engineers, finishing off these light targets so that his infantry maintains superiority. Mosquito now coming in. That's the one with the 6 110 kilogram bombs. We've got 3 or 2 units of rifles on top of each other there, but he doesn't go for that bombing strike. He goes for the bombing strike onto the engineers. Would have been nice for him to pin down these so the glider crew could have won that engagement. That's what all these Tempests need to do, just tip the engagement of the infantry in favour of AmberT. Prestor John, however, he's just going to be bringing in more armoured rifles, more tanks. If he can keep up the armour presence, eventually it will overwhelm AmberT, but it's a long time coming. Mosquito there, good napalm. Takes out both of the half-tracks, going to burn those armoured rifles if they don't fall back. And even if they do at this point, they're probably still going to die. Lovely airstrikes. Although that one's going to go down. That's an aircraft down. Okay, this is where things start to get a bit different. Because if the CGMC can start to pick off the backup of Typhoons and so on that AmberT has, then Prestor John's ground sort of power is only going to increase. And you can just see more and more stuff coming in. More CGMCs. From Prestor John, he's got another one coming in. And if he can keep these alive and together, he can get more of those aircraft killed, which will eventually lead to more ground being taken. And well, AmberT currently has a lot of his power in his air force, so he needs to be starting to get more kills from them, because otherwise he's not going to have enough on the ground. 6-pounder here. Looks like that was potentially engaged by the jumbo. We are seeing the off-map strike now coming down. These armored rifles going to be pushing up. I didn't think we could see the off-map strikes. I must have just been missing them. Either way, armored rifles on the bottom side, under fire from the sniper. If he lets that continue, then there will be a little bit of a problem. Chip away at that squad. Got plenty of ammo. Have to see if Prestor John notices. But currently, AmberT is looking a little bit, well, in a little bit of a bad position. Now we are in Phase B, of course. This is Maverick from Prestor John. He has a lot of points to work with compared to AmberT. That's an extra 60 points per minute, which is like potentially 3 units of 20-point infantry, or like an extra tank, you know, like an M4A1, and that is really starting to build up. So it's up to AmberT to try and take care of more targets with his Air Force ASAP. He's using the Tempest Mark V to try and hit the CGMC. The Typhoon, though, was stopped. So that's very, very vital. I think that's micro, actually, from Prestor John. He probably microed the Typhoon, unless it took priority over the Tempest. That might have also been the case. But either way, the CGMC is doing the job. And that was 3 aircraft not able to break Prestor John's AA. So that's really good. Now, what AmberT is going to try and do here is take out these anti-airs. He's rushed up the Cromwells. He's managed to take out one. Is he going to take out the second? I don't think he has line of sight. The Jumbo's kind of just holding those. The M4A1 that was pushed up did get taken out. But yeah, another CGMC there going down is good for AmberT at least. So, AmberT still putting a little bit of pressure on the bottom side. Going to use the Tempest to try and clean up the armoured rifles. If he can break in on this bottom side, that would be quite nice. Holding this town does give you quite a nice position. But he would need the AT guns to back it up. And of course, you know, we've got a lot of armour coming in now from Prestor John. I'd love to see a jumbo on this bottom side. It's a real shame that we don't. Because this jumbo, again, it's kind of just sat in this town, really not doing too much. And it is quite vulnerable in that position to side shots from the ridge, especially considering AmberT generally has control in this area, although I guess he lost control here to these armoured rifles now. Well, Typhoon does manage to get the rockets down on target, but doesn't get the kill onto the jumbo. Because it was already pinned a little bit, probably wasn't as accurate as it needed to be. This Mosquito is going for the bombing strike onto the M4A1 105. Let's do plenty of damage, but not going to get a kill. That 105 was providing quite nice support onto this infantry. And there is a severe lack of infantry here right now. Armoured rifles pushing up very effectively against the Grenadiers and the gliders. Do see 2 Grenadier Volt coming in. 6-pounders going to be unloading in the open here. Cromwell 5 at its back. Now, the abundance of tanks is becoming quite ridiculous. We can see like the M4A3s on this bottom side. We got the 2 M4A3s in the middle with the M4AA1. There's of course the jumbo here. There's going to be a second jumbo joining that. The M4A3 105 on the top. So much armor on the side of AmberT. Couple Cromwell 5s. And that's about it. Yeah. There is some more Cromwell 5s on the top side actually. But they don't match up well to Shermans. Like with the 100 armor and 90 penetration, Cromwells only have 70 millimeters of frontal armor. And with that reverse order, Typhoon's not even going to get the kill onto the M4A3, so that is really nice. So it looks like AmberT's little push on this bottom side caused a reaction from Prestor John that he wasn't really prepared for. Lost a lot of ground down here now. Might end up losing this flag in the open, especially if these M4A3s start pushing across. The 100mm of frontal armor on these is actually pretty much good enough to tank the 6-pounders for a little while, generally. Well, Tempest there coming in, going to shoot down the P51. Those P51s are very weak. Goes down very fast to the Tempest. There's only 1 AA left, and that AA is actually almost out of ammunition. Prestor John's going to have to be careful. But he's pushing in. Still has 14 to 10. A +1 lead. M4A3 is trying to engage the Cromwell 5. The M3A1s took out the 6-pounders, no longer needs to worry about that. Another armoured rifle arriving here. Big bunch of grenadier bolts though. These all have 2 Brens each. They can do a serious amount of damage at range, whilst the armoured rifles do not have a machine gun. That's one thing that's not so good about the US infantry, is that they don't have a strong light machine gun. They do have, obviously, separate light machine gun squads with the 30 cals, and they also have the heavy machine gun in the 50 cal, but they don't have them embedded in their squads. There is the armoured rifle with the BAR, but that's not quite as good as having like 2 Brens, for example. And one thing that is going in favour of Prestor John is he has managed to keep this M4A3 up on the hill for a long time. It's been doing a reasonable amount of damage to all of this infantry. CGMC fails to shoot down the Tempest. I think it ran out of ammunition. Is there another one up here? I don't think there is. The 50 cals were all firing away. Right, we do see the 6-pounder now under fire. One of the M4s did go down, but the 6-pounder, again, I mentioned it earlier, going to go down at range to an M4A3 because it can tank those shots quite well. Relatively low penetration chance from the 6-pounder. Challenger, though, has arrived. Now, Challengers are okay. They do have a lot of penetration, like 170mm of penetration there, but the 75mm of frontal armour does leave them a little bit vulnerable to these M4A3s. Now, at this moment in time, it does look like Prestor John has a huge lead, but we have moved into Phase C, and that means that Prestor John's income has been cut down. So at this point, it's really up to AmberT to cull some of the advantage that Prestor John has found himself in Phase B with his Maverick income. If he can do that, then he has a chance to bring this back. Another 6-pounder goes down there. M4A3s on the bottom side are trying to deal with 2 17-pounders. Oh, that bounced the shot. Not going to bounce that one. That one penetrates. One of the 17-pounders has been killed, though, and it looks like the 17-pounder's now out of range. So M4A3 gets away with it for the time being. Going to maintain the cap on the bottom side. It is a 2-tick at the moment. 16 to 8. Make that 17 to 7 for Prestor John. He is finding a huge salient here. He's going to want to exploit that. Just pick up your infantry in the M3A1s, charge them down the road, get into position. Be really nice for Prestor John right now if he could do that. Looks like AmberT also lost his Cromwell on the top side. And these infantry aren't long for this world either. Tempest, though, does manage to get a bombing strike. Oh, rather nice bombing strike, actually. Chunked that squad big time. The CGMC still out of ammunition. So the aircraft are just going wild right now. Jumbo's completely undefended. Mosquito comes in for the bombing strike. Gonna force that back. Armoured rifles are coming in on the bottom side. It looks like they're actually heading to the centre. Maybe to challenge the Canadian paras there. This engineer, it must be out of line of sight of the sniper, and therefore is technically hidden to the Challenger right now. Typhoon coming in with a rocket strike. Looking for the M4A3. Yep. Surprised he didn't go for the Jumbo. Make sure he killed that off. Maybe the 17-pounder will get it because it's falling back with side armor showing. Ooh, that's unlucky. Then again, these don't have any veterancy. And a 17-pounder's accuracy at 50% is not terribly reliable at that kind of range. So that's another unit gone down. There is still, of course, that one grenadier left on the top side, but Prestor John, he has managed to get some infantry unloaded on these flags. I would have liked to see the same thing happen here to secure these 2 flags, because if he could maintain like 18 to 6, that would have been pretty dire for AmberT at this point in the game. Now there's 8 minutes and 30 seconds left until AmberT loses out. Prestor John still maintaining a strong position. The 6th Airborne doesn't quite have the armour to reply. That's why you can see a lot of the 17-pounders coming in onto the field, because they are the only things that can reliably deal with tanks. because his Challengers die just as easy as his Cromwells do to enemy M4s. The only trouble I do see is that the 17 pounders are being left in the open and not used in cover. Now that does make it faster for the 17 pounders to be pushing up, but it also makes them more vulnerable to counterfire from the enemy tanks. Now what you're going to see happening here is Prestor John's flanked this 17 pounder with 50 cals, and the Jumbo's just, well, basically was just tanking the frontal shots from the 17 pounder. Now it is important that AmberT does take out these M4A3s, because if he focuses on the M4 Jumbo, it's probably not going to penetrate ever. But it looks like he's going to rely on a bombing strike there to take care of that instead. Yeah, the Jumbo can probably just clean up the 17 pounder. It's in the open, it's not going to be hidden anytime soon. Tempest does take out another unit of armoured rifles, but the tanks are still on the hill. The M4A1, or M4A3 and the M4A176 both casually sitting up there. Nice job by Prestor John to maintain control of this high ground. Did put a lot of pressure up here early on, and it seems to have paid off, because it does give you eyes over this flag and this flag. AmberT, he did put a lot of pressure in the center, but he didn't manage to hold it. I think if AmberT had held the center, then he'd be in a much better position right now, but didn't invest too much more into that. Instead, he tried to recapture this hill, and he did briefly, but it cost him a lot in the process. Now, currently we're just seeing Prestor John drive around with the half-tracks. It's the half-track show right now. 6 minutes until victory for Prestor John, just exploiting any salient he can find. Typhoon going to try and clean up the M4A3, but the M4A3, well, it's used up its heat shells. It hasn't used up its HE, so I guess getting rid of it is useful. That will allow his infantry to move forwards a bit more freely, but the M4A176 and the M4A1 are both just as good at killing infantry in the open with the HE and their 50 cals. Especially at the 3-star veterancy that the M4A1 is. I really like this model. It's probably one of my favourite tank models in the game. Really nicely detailed. That's the M4A1 there. It'd be nice if that could be moved a bit further up so that he could get transport snipes. But Prestor John's done really well to just use his armor as much as his infantry. Now, there was a time where obviously infantry was the meta, right? And it still is in a lot of cases, you know, there is a lot of like infantry spam, so to say. But in situations like this, where your opponent is using an infantry division, if you counter it with a division that can bring out a medium tank and then 1 unit of infantry, a medium tank and then 1 unit of infantry, eventually what's going to happen is your opponent, who's relying solely on infantry, will not have anything to shoot back, or at least anything that has enough range to shoot back. And that's basically what we're seeing right now. Typhoon's coming in with the rocket strike, does manage to take out a Jumbo there. Tempest going for the bombing strike, does take out something on the top side. And the bombing strike here, lovely double kill. Okay, so we're starting to see these aircraft start to pay off, and Prestor John's big push in Phase B is starting to be chipped away, but it's still 15-9, and that's still a double tick. So only 4 minutes left for AmberT. If he manages to get one more flag, he'll give himself an extra 4 minutes to get back in the game. But I feel like with the Vanguard deployment type, you're building very similar to a Maverick deployment type, and so there is going to be a limited amount of infantry availability in Phase C. There's Jumbo. I reckon there's probably some penetration value there from the 17 pounder, but the Jumbo has way more penetration. So we're going to see that Challenger go down, I would expect. Unless the Jumbo keeps missing something. Challenger went down in the middle of the town. Armoured Rifles managed to surrender, I think, an Armoured Para there. Or an AB Para. Yep, Churchill goes down. I think the Armoured Rifles picked up that kill. And now the Jumbo arrives in the bottom in the open. This is nice. I like that. Okay. Now this is going to have to deal, of course, with the 17 pounder that's in the middle, but it should be able to do so quite well at the max range. The M4A3, we'll have to worry about the AB Paras at close range, but I think we'll be able to spot those in time. Just needs a unit of infantry to accompany the tank. Okay, never mind. Looks like it can spot them anyway. So this M4A3 with that much veterancy is just going to melt the AB Para, and the AB Para dying there will give back a lot of ground to Prestor John, so he might be able to counter push and get himself into a good position, especially with the Jumbo killing off the 17 pounder. Them is coming in there with the hit onto the armoured rifles, lovely jubbly. Armoured rifles, again, another surrender there in the centre. I just don't think AmberT ever really recovered from the Phase B Maverick push that Prestor John put out. He doesn't have the substance in Phase C to really bring it back himself, even though he has a income advantage. And a lot of the aircraft that he had came out in Phase A and have continued to come in and get a lot of value. But without your stuff on the ground to push back, that's completely futile regardless. So, either way, M1 guns now coming in for Prestor John, looking to clean up the rest of AmberT's armour so he doesn't have to worry about it. He can then freely move forwards his M4s to deal with the remainder of AmberT's infantry. These AB Paras are not too great. They've only got a machine gun and 5 Lee Enfields for the range engagement, whilst the armoured rifles, they've got, 7 M1 Garands, and in this case the BAR, because it's the one with the BAR. Yeah, not the best holding infantry in the world. They're much better at sort of like the closer mid-range engagements where they can actually make use of the submachine gun sometimes. It's back to 14 to 10. With it being a double tick for so long though, it's still only 2 minutes and 45 seconds until victory for Prestor John. AmberT on his last leg, still coming in with these strikes though. This CGMC has been out of ammunition for so long. I wonder if it would have got any more kills if it had been given ammunition. And a little bit of veterancy as well. That might have gone a long way. There's one thing that you can't really neglect with these CGMCs is veterancy. And speaking of veterancy, we have been seeing players bring in their units with higher veterancy initially. So you can see all these M4A1s have 2-star veterancy. Quite interesting to see. And then they have occasionally an extra leader unit to pop them to 3-star veterancy, as opposed to relying on commanders. And I think that mainly comes down to the fact that commanders got increased massively in price. So, like, even the infantry commanders aren't worth it anymore. But Typhoon coming in there, lovely kill onto the Jumbo. Bombing Strike's going to kill off the armoured rifles. I think AmberT's just trying to get him some... Get himself some sort of commiseration kills. CMP is going to go down there. One of the AB Paras died early on. Prestor John knows he's won at this point. He's still holding this flag somehow due to this armoured rifle. That's going to go away soon. But he's still 14 to 10. If AmberT could bring it back to 12 to 12, that's the only way that he'd stay in the game. And that's a long way off. Well, actually not that far. 13 to 11. 5 seconds left. And that's it for Prestor John. GG indeed. So, lovely use of the medium armor support to really push in hard in the mid game. The Maverick deployment type with those jumbos really did very well. And oh, would you look at that KD? AmberT, 3,655 kills to 3,490 losses. But you know where the difference is? It's in the air. All of the aircraft that got all of those kills are not on the ground, and therefore the kills and losses make up for, well, basically Prestor John can lose the equivalent of like 300, 400 points and still have just as much on the ground as AmberT. And that's where air can be risky. I think AmberT did do well with his air in general, and he did a great job of shutting down Prestor John's anti-air, but the armor overwhelmed him. pretty much in the end, and didn't really have enough to counter that. And I don't think he had enough Typhoon ATs in the late game to really, continue to get those kills. Like if you want to go for an airborne strat, you can't rely really on like 4 aircraft or 5 aircraft that I think he had throughout that game. Actually, I guess he may have had more than that because they were coming in relatively frequently. But still, yeah, wasn't enough at the end of the day. 6-pounder. It was good to see AmberT bringing in those 6-pounders from the start this time. He got caught out in the last game because he didn't have that many AT guns at the start. But this time around, he managed to catch a lot of those M8s, a lot of the half-tracks, a lot of the medium tanks, the M4s in this case. And so his early game was a lot better. But didn't manage to maintain control of the center hill, so that's unfortunate. But look at these Typhoon kills, very nicely done. The M4A1, jumbo. These are paying themselves off massively. But everything on the ground is not. And that's the difference. We go over to the losses. We'll see that the engineers are trading. And the M4A1s are getting quite a few kills. The jumbos are getting kills. M4A3s are getting kills. Again, M4A3, M4A1, M4A1, M4A3. And it's these ground kills that make the difference. They're what takes territory. You can kill the enemy in front of you and you can drive forwards and take territory. If they're in the sky, they can't do anything about it. And although AmberT did get a lot of kills, I think Prestor John pushed hard enough in Phase B for it not to matter. And AmberT was still recovering well into Phase C. And that's not what you want when you're playing a Vanguard division. Because Phase C is also your enemy, as much as it is for the Maverick. But there we go. After 34 minutes and 58 seconds, Prestor John dispatches AmberT, knocks him out, and Prestor John will be moving on to the semi-finals. So congratulations to him, commiserations to AmberT. I think AmberT put up a much better showing in that second game. Really good to see him on form there. In the first game, I feel like he really dropped the ball with the 15th. Maybe just a division that he's not particularly familiar with or doesn't like playing. But yeah, he kind of got rolled over by Prestor John in that one. This one, a lot closer. And Prestor John just coming out on top due to his strong armor play in Phase B. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.